So if you were an adult in 2008, or really if you were probably 16 in 2008, you remember the crash. And so one of the questions that we get a lot right now is, I am not going to buy right now because the same thing is about to happen. We are about to have a crash. Because isn't this a bubble? Now, here's how I'm answering that. It's with data, information, and facts, which is how we do everything. I'm going to show you this graph, and it's going to explain why this is not a housing bubble. One of the things, but before I do that, let me explain a little bit of economics. So the most basic concept of economics is supply and demand. If supply is low and demand is high, prices will rise. Vice versa, if demand is low and prices are high, prices will come down. So where we are right now is, look at this graph of homes that were built in the last 30 years. When you look really closely, you'll see that period of time in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, almost 10 years of building below the average amount of homes that are needed in the market. So when we got into 2018 and they started building houses again in 2019. Well, actually, it was 2019. They started building houses again. And then what happened? COVID happened, and building went down again, which then drove supply even further. So we are over 5 million homes short in the market of what the historical average would have been. Now, here's the other thing to know about pricing. Remember that 2008, 2009, 2010 prices went astronomically down in a lot of markets around the country. Luckily, Nashville didn't have the astronomical issue, but we did see a decline in prices. Well, historically, the housing market increases at about a 4% rate from when it was recorded for the first time, which is in the 70s, until 2008, when it kind of went out of skew, and then we went down and it was crazy. Well, if we had taken that trend line and continued it through the downturn and into the recovery, beginning of this year, we just started catching up to what that historical trend line would have been for housing prices. So while the houses might feel so expensive today compared to last year or the year before, if you look at where home prices were in 2005 to 2021, they're increasing on a nice steady 4% increase. It just so happens that if you bought your home in the last 2 years, you're seeing a big part of that upswing. So banks aren't failing. That's another thing. No banks are failing right now. In 2008, before everything went crazy, 25 banks failed in a year, which historically the average had been 2 or 3. In 2009, it was over 100 banks failing. None of that is happening. Even with the global pandemic, none of that is happening. So if you're thinking, I'm going to wait for the market to crash, I don't think it's going to. This is just normal economic correction. Now, will it be increasing at a 20% rate for the next years? I doubt it, but I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But that's what you need to know. Supply is down, demand is up, prices are at a not historical high, they are at a historical average. And if you're waiting for foreclosures to hit the market, that's also not going to happen in any mass because there's too much equity. People have too much equity in their home to just hand the keys to the bank in foreclosure. So now's the time. Interest rates are low. This is not a bubble. This is just an economic climate that we have to learn to live with.